Hey guys, Jordy from Seven Eagle Group. I am really excited today for our guest. His name is John Bucy. He's an Army veteran and a guy who has spent the last 20 years in the staffing and recruiting industry, responsible for putting thousands of people to work. This guy understands this industry like no other, and that's why I'm so excited, because the information that he's going to provide to you today is not this is the real deal. This is somebody who's living this 10, 12 hours a day every day, and truly understands what it takes for you to put your best foot forward with hiring companies and really advance your career. So John, thank you so much for taking a few minutes this morning. I know you are very busy at your current firm at ProTech, and I appreciate you sharing some of your wisdom today with our crew.
Good to see you, Jordy. Happy Friday.
Thank you. Awesome. All right. So why don't we start in? I want to talk about your military experience and what that was like for you. You know, I know you served in the Army, and share that if you're okay with that.
Sure. So in high school, just to put some perspective to it, and I'm sure a lot of people out there, veterans or transitioning, can assimilate with my story. So in high school, I wanted to do anything but study, and I was a terrible student. And my mother actually got a letter home saying, young John is probably not going to graduate. And my mother went into the principal's office and gave her my military orders and said, don't worry, he's taken care of. So the military was a great move for me. It was me and my best friend joined a late entry program in 11th grade. We didn't see ourselves being successful in college, which I'm glad we did, because in the end, it turned out to be a pretty good move. So I joined the Army. I was a 64 Charlie, which is an Army motor transport operator technically, but a truck driver was what the MOS was. So it was a great experience for me. I actually I was in the 2-6 Cav in Fort Knox, Kentucky for the first 2 years, and I only drove trucks for 6 months. I volunteered into a computer job because we got our first computer system in the whole brigade, and I volunteered and had to compete with 2 other people to be the person who used a tool called WordStar, which is way previous to Microsoft Word, and I was creating electronic documents for my CO, which I had in high school. The one class I did like was computer class. So they thought I was a genius because I was taking forms and making them electronic. So then I went to Germany for 2 years, and I was in the 8th Infantry Division. Was supposed to go to a place where I was going to spend 260 days a year out in the field with the infantry, freezing and cold and challenging experience. And I got lucky. My ASVAB score was very high. So anyone whose score was over X got the interview to be on the general staff. So I was on the general staff for the 2 years that I was in the 8th Infantry Division. So that was a great experience, which I'll share on as well.
That is awesome. Which one are you in this crew here? Where are you?
The second, far right, second one down. The only guy wearing a gold watch in basic training.
Fighting weight. You look tough. That's awesome. What are you looking back now? I know it's been some time since you got out, but how did that experience help you with your career? How did it sort of shape you into the person you are today?
Well, it was foundational. As I said, I probably had a 1.6 GPA in high school, which is pretty embarrassing, but I don't mind sharing it now. And then through the military, I guess some of the key lessons that I learned and what shaped me was, first and foremost, people skills. In this picture here, there are people from all walks of life. Some of them, living on the streets. Some of them had potentially faced jail time or a bad situation. And so all different types of people. I was the son of a pretty successful doctor, So I was an interesting person to be thrown into the mix. And what I found is that I learned some incredible people skills, which I carry with me to today, because in my job in the human capital management staffing world, you're dealing with all different types of clients and all different types of candidates. And if you're unable to connect with them, you're not going to be able to connect the dots between the job seeker and the job. So people skills are critical. And I think most people who've gone through a stint in the military, whether they know it or not, they've picked up on some really good people skills. The second thing is discipline. I had no discipline. I didn't know what discipline was in high school, and in the military, I've learned discipline. I carry it through to today. And, I run my company, and I'm in here an hour earlier than any of my staff every day to prepare myself for the day and ensure that I'm ready and that my team is ready and they have all the tools and they're set up for success. And a lot of people ask me why I continue to do that, because when I'm the boss, but that's just who I am. And that's paid off for me throughout my career. Yeah. The third thing I would mention is, there's no I in teamwork. And I think it takes a team. And in the military, you learn whether you like this guy next to you or not, he's on your team, and you need to figure out how to take the strengths and weaknesses of each people on the team and make it a strong team in general.
Yeah.
And then the fourth one, which I just touched on, is preparedness. I think preparedness to me is responsibility. And I tell people I can't stand one of my pet peeves is timeliness of people coming to work. I've calmed down a little bit, but I used to be pretty full of the day. Then the rest of the challenges coming at you are going to overwhelm you.
Yeah.
So
that's good advice. That's
yeah.
good advice.
And after transition wise, I spent 4 years, got my honorable discharge. And when I got out, I moved back home for a year and went to a local junior college. And I had to learn how to be a student. I didn't know how to study. And, I went from a 1.6 GPA to a dean's list my first semester. My father fell back in his chair. And I eventually graduated from Florida State University with a double major in marketing and entrepreneurship.
Good for you. Good for you. That's great. Your mom must be like, who is this? You sent me back the same guy I sent in? It drives me nuts that these, whether it be somebody at the high school level or a coach, or when they're influencing our children, to discourage a young kid, it drives me nuts. And thank goodness for the military, because a lot of the folks like you who say, my only route is the military. Look at that transformation you made from not having that inspiration or direction when you were in high school to 4 years later, making dean's list with a double major. So kudos. All righty. Let's talk now about the professional career. Okay, so you got out. What made you choose the staffing industry? You've spent as I mentioned, 20 plus years as owning staffing companies and working in them. And why did you pick this career path for yourself?
So I didn't pick it; it picked me, which is what happens a lot. In college, when I graduated from Florida State, it was in 1992. It was a very challenging time economically and job market wise. And it was predicted that only 10% of our business school of 1,600 students would have a job walking across the stage. Wow. So the beginning of that semester, and this goes back to the discipline and preparedness, the beginning of my final semester, I made a goal with myself and a pact that I was going to graduate. I was going to be one of that 10%. And so I went to the library every morning at 8:00 in the morning, and I researched. And if you remember being in college, 8:00 in the morning is tough for a lot of college students. So I was there every day with clothes that were ironed and ready to go. And I was on a mission, and I did find a job. And I was a sales guy selling business forms and computer supplies. And then in 1996, I was at a happy hour and ran into one of my sister's bridesmaids who I hadn't seen for 2.5 years, and I'd never seen someone so excited about their job. And I asked her what she did, and she said she was a salesperson in the staffing industry. I didn't know it existed.
Yeah.
And I only asked her one question. I said, what does the average salesperson make at your company? And she said 6 figures. And I said, this was a Thursday night. I said, I want to interview. And I interviewed on Monday and got the job that day. And so in 1996, that started my staffing career.
Wow. That's funny how you run into somebody at a bar and then here you are 20 years later and you made a career out of that conversation, you know?
Well, it comes to a big topic that we're going to talk about today, I hope,
Yeah.
is networking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's who you know is it's not what you know, it's who you know. I think it's a
Yep.
little bit of both, but your network is will carry you along.
Absolutely. And we'll get into all those tips in a sec, but one other question about your career in working in staffing is why do you like it so much? Why have you stayed with it? What drives you every day to be in this field?
Well, first of all, you're going to spend 8 to 10 hours a day at your job. So it's a painful path if it's not something you enjoy and that you're proficient at.
Yeah.
So I don't consider what I work really hard, but I don't consider it work because I love what I do. I found, I'm not sure why, but we're all wired differently, but I'm an altruistic person. I get a kick out of helping other people, just like you do with what
Yeah.
you're doing, which I commend you for that. And I get paid to help people find jobs. And
Mhm.
so I'm helping a lot of people. I'm helping my client connect with the best possible talent, and I'm helping the candidate find the best possible job for them, and bettering their life in a lot of different ways, whether it's their financially, their commute, their work-life balance with their family. Um, you know, I just I'm just blessed to be in a job that's perfectly suited for my personality and my strengths.
Yeah, no doubt. It's definitely a rewarding industry. If anyone out there has any interest in going into the recruiting field, it is a really good one, as John mentioned. All right, let's jump into this stuff. All right, the first topic we like to talk about is choosing that career path, why that's so important, and what are some ideas you have for someone who might be a little confused about that direction.
Well, first and foremost, I think people coming out of the military um, I won't use the word scared, but they're apprehensive in making that jump back into the commercial side of things, civilian life, civilian jobs. And I'm here to tell everyone on this call or who listens to this message that you have more skills than you think you have. And you got to be positive, and you need to assess. First thing you need to do, my first advice is assess yourself and have others have you who take part in that process. So write down all of your strengths and then call some friends, talk to family members and ask them what they think are your strengths. And then, do the research on different occupations, because different occupations require different strengths. And it's a mapping exercise. So you have to find out what opportunity is the best fit for you. And what are you interested? What are you passionate about? Try to find occupations that play into that. I know a lot of people that square peg themselves into a specific occupation for whether it be financial or stature reasons, because they feel that that's their parent, it will make their parents proud. Um, Oftentimes those people are 10 years into it and they're lost.
Yeah.
They don't understand or can come close to understanding the passion that I have or you have for what you do. The next thing, once you come up with it, and it's a process, right? Once you come up with a target couple careers, this is where network comes in. Find people who are in these careers and offer to buy them a cup of coffee or a lunch and ask
Yeah.
them why they got into it. What's the day in the life? What's the good part? There's a bad part to every job. What's the bad part of that job? And then we all have financial requirements. So determine what your financial requirements are. Determine some career paths you're gonna need education. So you're gonna have to grind and have 2 part-time jobs while you go to school, even on the GI Bill. I worked while I was in college on the GI Bill. And my father probably would have paid for college, but I wanted to do it on my own, and I did, and my dad was very proud of me. But determine your financial requirements and work your way towards that, because at the end of the day, you have to be able to cover your bills.
Right, right. Great advice. Awesome. All right, next one.
By the way, I could talk for 20 hours on that topic.
On each of these, I know. Next one, you touched on this briefly, was the importance of networking.
Yeah. So, first and foremost, there's different styles of networking that work for different people. There are introverts. I have 3 boys, 3 sons. My first son is an extrovert. My middle is an introvert, and my last is a crazy, excited extrovert. So they're all going to have different career paths, but you have to find a style of networking that works for you. Yeah. I don't mind going to a group of 100 people, a room of 100 people, and working my way around and walking up and shaking hands and introducing myself. For some people, that's a scary, daunting task, and you can't force that. So the good news is with the internet and all the groups out there, and there's groups like meetup groups, there's ways for people who aren't even great communicators and are introverted to get access to people. I think first and foremost, LinkedIn. If anyone on this call does not have a LinkedIn account today, I'm challenging you to set one up. It doesn't take very long. And on LinkedIn, you have access to people, groups of people with like skills and jobs. The LinkedIn has become the #1 job site in the country, surpassing the likes of Monster and Career Builder as far as connecting people to good jobs. In my 24 years of experience, only 2 times did I get a job that wasn't a result of my network. And several of those times, I didn't even have to update my resume, because I built a reputation for myself on my people skills, my discipline, my preparedness. I built a reputation, and people understood that, and that's what people are seeking. And my final point on networking is people genuinely like helping others. So ask for help. And what I ask for you, ask for help, and ask for help often. I love helping people. I will help anyone, especially my veteran brothers and sisters. But I also ask you at some point in life to give help back, because it's a cycle.
Yeah, no doubt. If you don't have a LinkedIn page, as John mentioned, get one today. They're free. They have a free premium account for military, but it's almost like a requirement to have that. So make sure to get on that. And to add to one thing you said, which is like, don't be afraid to ask somebody for an informational interview, for a cup of coffee, for advice, and don't be intimidated by their titles. Like, you might see John on LinkedIn and it says president and founder, you're like, oh my gosh, this guy's not going to respond to me. But often it's the other way around. The higher up you go in the organizations, the nicer the people, and the more willing they are to give back to people. So anyway, good advice on networking. Thank you. Next one.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I can't tell you how many people, whether it's my financial advisor or friends of mine, have asked me to talk with their children and give advice, because a lot of times kids just don't feel that their parent is in that position to do that, because they're the parent. And I've helped many people and just ask for the help.
Yeah. It bums me out that it's not like required courses in high school and college for kids, like how to network, how to get it. I don't know. Anyway. All right. Next one, talking about internships. The military has the program called Skill Bridge, which is for active duty to get out 6 months early and start their career path. Regular internships, volunteer. Talk a little bit about the importance of getting that experience outside of the military in your career path?
Well, I'd never heard of SkillBridge until I was fortunate enough to connect with you. And how I connected with Jordy here is that I stumbled across someone who worked for his organization, and I'm all about veterans, and I thought it was really cool, and I reached out, and now we've built a relationship, and hopefully we can do some things together. But SkillBridge is surprisingly an unbelievable program. I didn't know it existed, and I'm sharing it with everyone I come in contact with.
Yeah.
I think that the important things with SkillBridge is, number one, it's a resume builder. Your resume is your story, and you need to look at it that way. And it's your lifelong story, and take it seriously when you jump around, or if you are unfortunate enough to get fired from a job. That's part of your story, and so you need to take it very seriously. It's like being in the military. Your story is the awards that you get, and getting that honorable discharge. So resume builder is the first thing. The second thing is SkillBridge gives people in the program an opportunity to explore a profession that they may otherwise not have access to. So there are a lot of large companies involved in the SkillBridge program, Marriott Corporation as an example, and some of these jobs you don't have access to. I mean, you can apply all you want online, but they're getting thousands of people, and through this program, it's a direct connect to that employer. The third thing is you develop on-the-job skills that will ultimately lead to an opportunity to work to potentially be full-time with that organization after the internship. That's the benefit to the employer. I mean, right. As people, we always think what's in it for ourselves. We should think what's in it for them as well. And so this is a mutually beneficial program where it's a win-win all the way around. If you're a transitioning military person, this program, I'm sure you've heard, is paid for by the military. So for me, it's a quote unquote no-brainer. I wish I'd known about it back in my day.
Yeah. Yeah. And even if you can't participate in SkillBridge for whatever reason, John, talk about, like you mentioned, you were in college and you have 2 part-time jobs. You could still be serving and get a part-time job on the weekend, maybe doing it remotely or freelance, or start your own side gig in the career path that you want. Talk about why that could be a good option too.
Well, I think people hiring managers are looking at a couple things. They're looking at your hard skills, which are your specific skills, the requirements of that job. But equally important and becoming more important as time goes on are the soft skills. And the soft skills go back to the people skills that we talked about, the discipline, the preparedness, your communication skills. And I think, as you're building out that resume, everything you do, you should be thinking about it, because you increase your value throughout your life. You should be constantly striving to increase the value that you bring to the marketplace, right? Because the value that you bring to the marketplace determines the salary that the marketplace is willing to pay for your services. A lot of people don't look at it that way. A lot of people think I'm going to get a job and check, I'm done. But there's a lot more to it. Every job I ever went to, even my first job as a technical recruiter in staffing, I dressed just like my boss's boss did, and I came in. I came in earlier than everyone, and I quickly understood that in recruiting, you could recruit 24 hours a day. So it's how many cycles are you willing to put in? And every Tuesday and Thursday night, I worked late, and I programmed myself. And as a first year guy, I went on a president's club and went to a very nice place in Puerto Rico. And I didn't think that was possible.
That's awesome. That's all. It's just doing the little things that no one else wants to do, and working harder, and that's good for you.
And most companies out there have an internship program, and a lot of larger corporations have a quota Quota being that they have committed to hire X number of veterans.
Yeah.
And the reason these programs aren't as successful as I would like them and Jordy would like them to be is that it's the connector. Someone has to be in the middle orchestrating and connecting the veterans
Right.
with these jobs. And that isn't there. And so that's why Jordy and Seven Eagle Group and what they do with the SkillBridge program is that connector.
Yeah. Good. Thank you. All right. Next one, resume. What are your thoughts, favorite tips, strategy, pitfalls on the resume? This outdated piece of paper that we've been using for the last 100 years.
So that outdated piece of paper is still your story and still super important. And my first tip is always make sure that your resume and your LinkedIn are mirror images of each other. I have seen over my career, I've seen tens of thousands of resumes and reviewed them, and I'm also oftentimes asked by friends and family to look at theirs and help them out with that. But number one, always map your resume to the job applied for. Remember early on, I said, coming out of the military, you have more skills than you know you have. Once you've done your inventory and made your list of your top 10 skills, make sure on your resume that you're documenting that. So as a motor transport truck driver, 4 years in the Army, you would think my resume would be kind of boring that drove an M151A1 Jeep driving a captain around doing military exercises, or drove a 5,000 gallon fuel Hemet tanker, which I did. But worded properly and not falsifying your experience, I could make that motor transport operator job on my resume look really fancy.
That's right. Yep.
Always map yourself to your resume to the job applied for. Never oversell or fabricate on your resume. It will, I promise you, it will come back to haunt you.
Yeah.
I've seen it way too many times, and it's an easy thing to do, but just don't do it.
Right.
Use the summary and objective section, which a lot of people no longer use, to sell your soft skills, experience, and goals. So if I'm applying to 3 different jobs with 3 different companies, I'm going to have my resume is going to be different for those 3 because they're all looking for different skills. And do not be afraid to promote your accomplishments. In the military, you may have got a Army Achievement Medal or an Army Commendation Medal, or I was a Soldier of the Quarter one quarter, which Soldier of the Quarter, okay, great, but there were 1,100 people that could have gotten Soldier of the Quarter, and why did I get it? So document these things, and I got it because I was always on time, I was dependable, I was organized. The Hemet fueler that I had at the time was immaculate, and I treated it like my own. And these are these are all things that the employer at Marriott is looking for as well,
right?
Regardless of what the job is. So, lastly, proofread your resume several times, and once again, this is your network. Do not be afraid to ask others to review it.
Right.
You're too close to it. So get other people to look at it and give their perspective. And what I like, my exercise is I like to have a resume and I give it to someone and say, what do you see in this person? Because, I have a saying that rattles throughout the halls of my company and throughout my whole career. The resume gets the interview and the candidate gets the job.
Yeah.
The resume gets the interview because that's all they have of you. All they see is that piece of paper that you give. That's all they know about you. So make your story great. And then, because you could be the best interviewer in the world, but if you have the worst resume, you're going to be that great product that's in the back of an Amazon warehouse that never gets purchased.
Yep, that's right. And the resume, nobody gets hired from the resume alone either. They always have that interview before. So that's good. Awesome. All right, next one, interviewing. So now the resume did the job. You're sitting down across from a hiring manager or recruiter. What do we do?
Wow. Do we have 4 more hours on this call?
Yeah, I know.
So,
Favorite tips. Yeah.
first and foremost, and a lot of this is going to go back to LinkedIn. Research the industry and the company on LinkedIn. Connect with people. Everyone is free to send a connection request. You may not always get accepted, but connect with people in that company. You may have, if I'm applying for a job at Marriott and I'm friends with Jordy, who's been at Marriott for 2 years, I'm going to reach out to Jordy and say, Jordy, what do you like about Marriott? Who do you know? Hey, Jordy, I'm applying for a job as a security guard at their headquarters in Bethesda, Maryland. And who do you know? Who's the manager? And Jordy may say, I just had coffee with him yesterday. He's a good buddy of mine. And Jordy puts in a good word. My resume floats to the top of that list.
Right.
When you're in an interview, clarify why you feel you're a fit and the reasons you want the job. You got to go for it. I mean, don't be overly zealous, but tell them that, I have done security in the past, and based on my experience in the military, I feel I'm a fit for reason A, B, and C. People appreciate that.
Yeah.
Anticipate the interviewer's concerns and reservations. So because you only had 4 years in the military, they may be like, well, you don't have any experience. All your experience is military. How does that parlay over to what we're trying to do? And be prepared for that. And don't not have a response. Practice. Mock interview with a friend or a mentor. And when you're in that interview and the interviewer, and I do this at the close of every interview, ask you if you have any questions. If you don't have any questions, I'm very concerned.
Yeah.
Have questions, and they can be clarifying questions. When you show up to that job on that first day, make it a great day. Show up with enthusiasm and energy. Perceptions are established very quickly. Just like when you're meeting someone for a blind date, in the first 5 minutes, you have a feeling. And you're hiring the person who hired you. When you come in for that first day, they're going to have a perception. They're going to say, okay, this guy showed up to work, 2 minutes late. This guy showed up to work with wrinkly pants on. This guy showed up to work not cleanly shaven. All of these things matter. Always stay on the positive side. Never talk negatively about past experiences. I am a positive, high energy guy 24 years later, just because that's who I am. And my employees, I build up my employees because I'm the energy. You be that energy. When you're interviewing for a job, always show up prepared. Have an extra resume, even if you don't think you need it. Have a notepad and have a pen. Preparedness, people notice. And then always thank the interviewer for their time. The people who, and I test people, and I just interviewed a guy on Wednesday, and I really like this kid. He's got some issues, but we talked through it and he was able to overcome it. I'm really hoping he sends me a thank you note because I'm on the fence about him, and a thank you note would push me over.
Yeah, that's
it seems like a small thing, and you would assume everyone does it. No one does it.
Right.
No one does it. And then my last piece of advice on interviewing is don't ever give up. Keep going. Because you got turned down from the last two does not mean that you're inept or you're not capable. They just weren't the right job for you. Or maybe you didn't do enough practice, or maybe you didn't do enough research, but you should get better every interview. And know the first couple interviews are going to be really challenging and you're going to be really nervous. But the more you do it, just like with anything, in repetition creates perfection.
Yeah, that's great. It's funny you mentioned that story about the asking questions in the interview. Just recently, we had a veteran, $80,000 job. He went on the interview. It was his. He had it locked up. And the guy calls, the hiring manager calls me the next day. He's like, I asked him if he had questions at the end. He didn't have one for me, not one. He's like, how could this guy be interested in my company? And he was really interested. That's the bummer about it, because he just didn't, like you said, you know what you could pretty much guess what the questions are going to be for you. You know, there are not many different options. Tell me about yourself. Why would you be a good fit for the role? You know, so think of your answers ahead of time and you'll be so much better off. You won't be surprised, you know?
Yeah, I like confidence. So I always
Yeah.
say,
Yeah.
I always say, if and when I'm hired for this job, what would your expectations be
That's great.
30,
Yeah.
60, 90 days? And what that throws a lot of people off, because a lot of
Yeah.
interviewers haven't even thought that far. And they're like,
That's
wow,
awesome.
this guy is on his game.
That's great. That's a good one. All right, next one, or last one on you get the job. What can they do? You mentioned some stuff about showing up that first day ready to go and squared away. What are some other things to separate yourself from everyone else in that company, letting them know you are headed for great things?
First and foremost, have a positive outlook. People are looking for that. There's a lot of negativity in the world. Be that beacon of positivity. Be eager to learn. When I went in for my first job as a recruiter, I had interviewed for a sales job, and the day before someone took that job, they talked me into being a recruiter, which I felt was a slight to me because I was going from an outside sales guy to an inside. I took the job anyway. It was the best move I ever made. But I promise you, day one on the job, I came in, I was super fired up, and I was not only wanting to learn what a recruiter does, but what their salespeople do and what the manager does, because
Yeah.
I want to know what my career path is so I can prepare myself for it. So prove your worth. Go above and beyond what's expected. As I said to you guys before, I come in an hour early every day. I don't have to. I
Yeah.
do it because I want to go above and beyond for myself and for my team. And they see it. And a lot of my team would run through that wall for me because they know that I would run through it ahead of them to break it down for them. And that's military philosophy. And I think it's super important. It's never too early to set career goals and take action on them daily, weekly, monthly. Always be learning. I'm always I don't read novels. I read self-improvement. I read autobiographies, and I read stories about successful companies because I want to always better myself, and I want to position myself and my company for success. Establish a relationship with your boss. A lot of people, wow, my boss is a senior VP. Oh, he's not going to want to spend time with me. We're all people. We all do that. We all eat. We all sleep. Establish a relationship with that boss. Be straightforward and communicate. If you're concerned about something, go tell him about it, because too often I see people quit a job because they didn't face a issue, and it's typically a small issue that could have been taken care of by that boss. Whether it's you sitting next to a certain person or being assigned to a team or the hours that you have to work. People are very flexible if you're that right resource that they value. And then the last thing is outwork your peers in a smart and efficient manner. Outwork your peers. I have a quote. I have two screens up, and my screen to my left is a quote. I'm a quote guy by Mark Cuban. And the quote is, work like there's someone working 24 hours a day to take it away from you.
That's good.
That's how I operate my life, because someone could take this away. I don't, we are all replaceable to a point, but do everything you can to make yourself as irreplaceable as you can.
Yeah. Outstanding. Good stuff. Good stuff. All right. Last one. This is something I thoroughly admire in you and respect you so much is you're so busy as it is running your business. You have a family, but you give so much of your time to help others. And as you mentioned, you drop anything to help your brothers and sisters. So talk why that is important for somebody who is either in the job hunt market or somebody who's had success and now, off on their career.
Well, I believe in paying it forward because my life has been enriched by others, and I feel it's the right thing to do to pass that on because you know there's different phases of life, right? The first phase is getting that first job, and then there's money goals, and then you get married and it becomes security, and then you have kids and it's raising your kids the proper way, and then money comes in because it's expensive to have that family. And I've done very well, and I've been blessed in my life, and a lot of people have. I've had a lot of great mentors in my life because I was that guy who reached out to my boss and built a relationship and told him what my aspirations were, and a lot of people helped me along. And because I built a reputation of being that guy who's reliable, who's hardworking, who takes the time to understand the business. I've been recruited for most of my jobs outside of the two, like I mentioned. So my military experience changed my life forever. I shared with you at the beginning of this video that I was headed down the wrong path, and I wasn't going to make anything of my life. Actually, I was sending my life into a little bit of a spin, and joining the Army in hindsight was the best thing I ever did. So I am who I am as a result. So I will never forget that, and I'm always going to give back. And any veteran, I help everybody. It's not just veterans. I'll help anyone who needs help and that I can add value to. But there's a special place for veterans. So I am very committed to helping veterans any way I can, as long as I can. And I applaud what you're doing, Jordy, because you're doing the same. For 14 years, I've been donating my time and money to the Wounded Warrior Project, for 13 years to the Paralyzed Veterans of America, and for the last several years to a local organization called Operation Second Chance, who does a lot of on the ground support at Walter Reed, which is very close to where I live.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for all that you do for the community. It's awesome. John, I want to thank you again for taking some time out of your day to do this with us. I consider you a mentor of mine, and I'm so grateful we met last month. We're actually going to be getting together in person. He's agreed to let me come down and spend an afternoon with him next week. So I'm heading down to DC, and I can't wait for that, because the advice and suggestions that you have for our company at Seven Eagle is going to put us at a different level. So I'm thrilled and honored that you're willing to do that with us. And thank you, everybody, for watching. Please pay attention to these tips that he gave, because it's one thing to hear advice from one person who's, say, an HR director at one company, but a guy like John has talked to thousands of HR directors and thousands of candidates over his career. So you're getting the best of everything. And it's just valuable advice that we truly feel will put you on a career path that'll make you happy and give you security and be lucrative and rewarding. So make sure to check out our site, seveneagle.com. We have a talent network there that we'd love to get you in, so you're on our radar, so we can match you with positions. And then if you ever want any one-on-one advice, please, I'm available all the time. I do open office hours every day from 3 to 3:30 on my Zoom. So just jump on and we can chat about anything you need. John, thanks again. I appreciate it.
Yep. In the Army, our motto is be all you can be. So be all you can be.
There you go. Good ending.